Welcome into PrepAquatics.com. I'm Skylar King. As always, you can email me, Skylar@PrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter, @SkylarPrep. Back for really the first full week of girls swimming here in Illinois, as majority of teams take Labor Day weekend off. Not everyone's really firing up the season that last weekend in August. But now just about everyone should have gotten a couple meets in, at least midweek, even if they're not full go on invitationals yet. There was one meet that I wanted to highlight that took place the night I recorded my last show, and that was Rosary Oswego. We discussed last week that Rosary and Stevenson are kind of the two catbird seat teams in terms of competing for the state title. Rosary, it's really going to come down to that third relay for them. They haven't had the depth to really put together a third competitive relay at the state level these last couple years since Becky Rentz has been there, and they should have a better chance this year, even though they might have to sacrifice a second individual race for somebody to kind of make it happen. And so I was very interested to see how the lineup would look against Oswego. And the interesting thing that Rosary did was they took Rentz off the medley in this meet. And so Annabelle Naraki backstroke, Elizabeth Naraki breaststroke, Ariana Nakula butterfly, Ali Casanovas freestyle. Annabelle Naraki is a freshman and can really contribute to all three relays, if we're being honest. And so this is obviously a situation where, depending on how the splits work out, we really haven't seen Lauren O'Connor swim a lot of 50 fly. But, if Naraki can be the backstroke group, maybe O'Connor can be the butterflyer here, and that can free Rentz up to swim both individual races. I think in the long run, Rentz is going to swim the medley, because I just think the medley is a win for Rosary if they load it. And that's not going to be true of the free relays in such a definitive fashion. And so I think it's hard to pass up the guaranteed, it used to be 32, now 40 points that a relay win, especially right at the start of the meet, can give you, and the confidence and the momentum that you can get throughout the meet from that. And Rosary, I think is got some versatility with what Rentz can swim. I think it really doesn't make sense for her to move out of the 50 and the butterfly. She does go 152.2 in the 200 in this meet. However, the only thing probably that's a bigger bummer than being the designated runner-up to Annika Park in the fly the last couple of years would be to be the runner-up in the 200 and the fly. So I doubt the 200 is going to be a move for Becky Rentz this season. But certainly anything that they put her in is going to be a top 3 finish or thereabouts. Unfortunately for her, second best event's probably the 100 free. And that it doesn't make sense to go back to back like that. Lauren Sidorsky, 158.4 for Oswego. Again, in this new world where we're scoring 16 people, a 158 isn't terrible. It's certainly within the margin of error for someone that you could think would score. The IM was pretty darn impressive considering this is Domi. Katie Gressick, 207.2. Elizabeth Naraki, 209.9. Bella Witowitz, 210.8. Ali Casanovas, 215.4. Rosary always seems to have the girls that can put the 4 strokes together and do a decent IM. Naraki's obviously someone that's going to be looking to finish top 8 in the IM this year. And Gressick, and she's probably thinking about trying to make a run at a state title in the IM, even though I think nobody can beat Izzy View in the IM this year. Based on what she did last year, Gressick has to sort of have those goals in mind, if you will. Olivia Moore, 24.1, wins the 50. Ariana Nakula, 24.7. And so here you go. Here's 2 of the non-quote-unquote superstars for Rosary. The big-time individual scorers, the O'Connor, Naraki, and Rentz. both going 24 in the 50 free. And so with these two girls, Annabelle Naraki, who I don't know that she needs two individual swims, right? I think it's very reasonable for her as a freshman to go 3 relays and say the 100 free. And because if they put the 200 relay in the top 6, I think it's hard for anybody to beat them. There I go, saying top 6, top 8. Because the difference between them and Stevenson, if they were to do that, now Stevenson's free relays are probably going to be better than Rosary's, especially the one that doesn't have Rents on it if Rents goes to medley. But the individual points that Rosary's going to pick up, Rents obviously is a bigger star than anyone Stevenson has, and obviously we know O'Connor could potentially go double top 6. There I go, top 8, and Naraki as well. Stevenson is going to nickel and dime more points from a wider range of girls, but probably not in as big a lump sums as Rosary's going to be capable of on an individual basis. Rents does go the fly here, 55-3. Again, no big surprise. We know that Rents is just waiting for Annika Park to graduate so she can finally win the butterfly. Chloe Diner, 57-3. Ariana Nikula, 57-7. Both times that you would say are reasonable scoring times. Diner, probably not going to swim the fly. But Nikula, well, why not, right? And that's a situation where she could go butterfly 3 relays if that's something that's going to benefit Rosary the most. And as long as they can maintain those juniors getting their 2 individual races, I don't think everyone else only getting 1 if they need to be on 3 relays is going to really hurt them in terms of their overall point total. 100 free, Olivia Moore, 53-2. Again, I think that Moore is probably the top candidate to be needed on 3 relays as that sprint freestyle style presence. Again, maybe they can pull her off the medley and still win and get her a second individual swim. That would certainly garner them some extra points. You would think that she could score potentially both the 50 and the 100 with those 4 extra spots. Gresick, 5:06.1. Sidorsky, 5:14.9. Annabelle Naraki, 5:15.6. All those times with a decent drop are times that could result in scoring swims. Obviously, Gresick is one of these girls that could potentially be thinking about winning the 500 free. There's certainly a group returning that is kind of all bunched up together. But Sidorsky and Naraki, I'd be shocked if Naraki swam the 500, but Sidorsky, Oswego could be looking for opportunities for her to move around to different races and see what might be the combination of her best and the weakest, and the 500 is certainly qualifies in that weak category. 200 relay, Rosary 38-2, Oswego 39-7. Oswego's problem and why they're not a legit trophy contender is because they don't have just that sprint talent. Their best girls who aren't sprint freestylers by trade are their best sprinters, and they really don't have those pure sprinters the way a Rosary does. And it may not be their best 4, but it shows you the lack of depth that they have in the sprint free when they're leaving a 26.8 off their A relay. And that's the major difference. Rents 24.00 leadoff, again, this is a 138-2 with neither Naraki's sister, and no Nakula, and Casanovas more Witowitz, and if this is their 4, then I think that really opens up a lot of possibilities for them with those extra individual races. And Rosary, just the more I've looked at it here in the early going, and I don't want to make broad proclamations this early in the season before I've seen a lot more teams in invitationals. But the more I look at it, I think it's going to be really hard to beat Rosary at the state meet this year. And there's only maybe only Stevenson could potentially do it, and that doesn't mean Stevenson couldn't potentially get beaten by somebody else. But Rosary just looks like they're going to have the ability to lock in so many points. Annabelle Naraki 000 in the backstroke. Again, freestyle backstroke is kind of her thing. 00 probably doesn't put her in the mix to score, however, even with the 4 additional spots. The breaststroke was a heck of a race. Chloe Diner 104.71, Naraki 104.79, Bella Witowitz 107.0. But you see in a lot of these races where Rosary has 2 girls, certainly 4 and 7 are times that you would think could both score at the state meet this year. And then 34.8 for Rosary, 39.3 for Oswego. And again, Oswego is just 1 girl short of having 2 good relays. We got a 57.2 on their A400 relay, and again, that should. I realize that 57 is not going to be a 57 at state, but you got too many teams out there who 57, can't even make their B relay. Rosary has Rents, Annabelle Naraki, Olivia Moore, Bella Witowitz on the A400 for a 334.8, 51.2 lead off for Rents. And that's the thing, if you're going to have, Rosary had 2 55s on this relay. You can absorb 55s if you got 51 lead off, or really 51 anything. And then Olivia Moore 52.5 is a heck of a second split. But this is definitely the deepest that Rosary's been in these recent years. Ariana Nakula actually led off 54.7 on the B relay, and so that Rosary A relay, give her a relay split, is definitely a 333 or better. And obviously they weren't getting pushed either, and so it's looking pretty impressive for Glenn Brown and Rosary. And I'm excited to see in 2 weeks when they host their home invite. Generally, they put together what is more or less a sectional type lineup look, and they tend to swim fast. It's their home invite, as you would expect, and to really get an idea of what Rosary's capable of and what other lineup possibilities they could potentially show. This weekend, I'm heading to Lyons Township. There's invitationals this weekend, but most of them are kind of strange. It's a lot of relay meets and things like that, so we're not necessarily going to get a ton of information out of this weekend. Really, next week is when we really get into the meat and potatoes of the season, and we start getting invites with quality teams that are swimming a actual championship meet program, with the normal events and also kind of the normal lineup setup, 2 to 3 individuals, 1 to 2 relays, and we can kind of see how it breaks down for everybody. As always, you can email me, SkylarPrepAquatics.com. You can follow me on Twitter @SkylarPrep, and we'll be back next week talking more girls high school season here at PrepAquatics.com.